Welcome to discussion 4, clinical kinesiology, where I'm going to discuss scapular rotation during shoulder flexion and extension. I'm going to use Herbie here as a model, and I've used modeling clay to indicate which muscles are the upward rotators of the scapula, in which the inferior angle moves away from the vertebral column, and which muscles are the downward rotators, in which it moves the inferior angle of the scapula moves in the opposite direction. The upward rotators on Herbie are in green. And when Herbie does, let me first demonstrate flexion from here to 190 degrees, and almost took off my pectoralis minor muscle here. So let me show it this way. As you do shoulder flexion to 180 degrees, the scapula upward rotates with it. Now, the upward rotators, this is the upper trapezius. The upper trapezius has its origin from the occipital protuberance, and a ligament here of the cervical vertebrae inserts on the acromion process of the scapula. As you can see, the line of pull is to rotate it upward, in which this inferior angle moves in this direction. Another upward rotator is the lower trapezius. The lower trapezius has its origin from these thoracic vertebrae, inserts at the base of the spine of the scapula, and when it contracts, it pulls in this direction. Its line of pull is down, and that also does upward rotation. The third upward rotator, and I had a hard time getting the clay in the model, I couldn't quite fit it in there, is the stratus anterior. Stratus anterior comes from these ribs, and it inserts on the anterior surface of the scapula near the vertebral border. So it actually goes under there, and I couldn't quite get there. That also contributes to upward rotation during flexion. Now, shoulder extension, which is bringing it from 180 degrees back to 0 degrees, when that occurs, you're going to have the scapula go back into place in downward rotation. The downward rotators, which are in blue, start with the levator scapula. The levator scapulae comes from these transverse processes of these cervical vertebrae, inserts on the scapula between the superior angle and the base of the spine of the scapula. As you can see, the line of pull is going to pull the scapula this way so that the inferior angle moves this way in downward rotation as you do extension back to 180 degrees. The other downward rotator shown here are the rhomboids, major and minor. The rhomboids are coming from C7 through, I think it's T5. Inserts on the scapula below the base of the spine and above the inferior angle. You can see how that is going to also rotate the scapula this way as the shoulder comes down. And I'm using the left as a reference. Finally, the third downward rotator is the pectoralis minor. Pectoralis minor has its origin from ribs 3, 4, and 5. Inserts on the coracoid process of the scapula. And it does more than this, but it also contributes to the downward rotation to some degree. Once again, when the shoulder is coming back to its original position during extension. Any questions?